Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Springfield Township Board of Trustees meeting. It is September 9th, 2014 at approximately 5:30 p.m. Mr. Burning, may we please have the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Burning?
Present.
Ms. McFarland?
Present.
Mr. Hunterlaw?
Present.
All trustees are present.
Next, would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first thing that we have on our agenda this evening are some special recognitions in the fire department. And Chief Leininger, I'd like to turn this part of the meeting over to you.
Thank you. First of all, it's an honor, but yet somewhat of a sad day, to recognize two individuals that are in the audience tonight. They have served on the Springfield Township Fire Department as well as the Northern Hills Fire Department for well over 20 years. That's a long time. You know, when you give of your time, that's a precious gift, and they have been not only great servants to the community, but they have also been, I could say personally, part of my extended family and also to the extended family of Springfield Township and to the residents. First, I'd like to recognize Joan Schumacher. Joan, if you would come up, please. Thank you, Joan. You know what, Joan? Let me come over. All right. To start off with Joan, I didn't realize this at the time, but back in 1984, when my wife and I got married, we hired the Craycroft photography studio. Joan was actually, her father was the photographer, and Joan assisted taking photographs at my wedding. Didn't know it at the time, but our paths would cross years later, and she actually came up and said, "I know you," kind of thing, and then we had a lot in common, and we shared some stories and things. But Joan joined the Northern Hills Volunteer Fire Department in 1992 as a firefighter EMT. She was one of the only female EMT firefighters on the department, and she proved that females can do the job and do it very well. She earned respect quickly and became a role model to other female firefighters that have followed in her footsteps. And I think this is really Joan's legacy. Not only has she earned the respect of all of her associates in the fire service, but she is an excellent role model and has been an excellent role model to females that want to get into the fire service. And any compliment, the best compliment you can give somebody is that you lead by example. And you hear that term time and time again, but Joan does it. She walks the walk, talks the talk, and she does it very well. For the past 18 years, Joan has primarily worked night shifts and weekends when she's not working as the assistant field manager and phlebotomist at the UC Hawksworth Blood Bank. Joan's positive attitude, knowledge, compassion, experience, leadership, and loyalty will be missed. She is a pioneer that has helped build and advance the Springfield Township and has led for other females to join the fire service. Joan is married to Bill Schumacher, who ironically is also on the Springfield Township Fire Department and is part of that extended family. And they have a grown son named Joe, who is also part of that extended family. Joe is the DJ that oftentimes provides music at our fire prevention open houses. So we're all just part of the family. Joan, I'd like to personally thank you for 22 years of service to Springfield Township, starting as a volunteer firefighter and then serving for the past 18 years with the Springfield Township Fire Department. Your services will truly be missed.
We do. We do,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Well, if you
And
want-
Joan, we have a plaque here that the Board of Trustees would like to give you, and we'll come down and present it to you.
If you wouldn't mind, we're going to recognize Jim Elliott, and so you're already standing up front here. If you don't mind, I'll go ahead and recognize Jim, and we'll have them both come up. Or do you want to get pictures taken first? Okay. All right, I'm going to recognize Jim Elliott, so if you all just want to continue to stand there, and we'll get their pictures together. Jim, if you would come up, please. Jim Elliott. Jim is a paramedic firefighter. Jim received firefighter training while serving in the U.S. Army. Shortly after moving into the area, Jim stopped by the Bill's Barber Shop at the corner of Hempstead and Winton Road. I know it's hard to believe, given my hairline, but I actually was sitting in the barber seat at the time. Jim saw that I was wearing a firefighter shirt and asked if I was a member of the fire department. After conversation, I invited Jim to the firehouse, and the rest is history. Jim joined the Northern Hills Volunteer Fire Department in 1989 and quickly got the bug and advanced his knowledge and became a firefighter paramedic in 1990. During his 7 years with the Northern Hills Volunteer Fire Department, Jim served as the EMS officer, managed the EMS training division, and participated in the task force that developed the transition plan for the Springfield Township Fire Department. For the past 18 years, Jim has been on duty every Thursday night. Unless he was traveling, he rarely missed a shift. Jim's positive attitude, knowledge, compassion, experience, leadership, and loyalty will truly be missed. He is a pioneer that has helped build and advance the Springfield Township Fire Department. Jim has been married to Jane, who's sitting here in the back, for 32 years, and they have 2 grown sons, Sam and John, all whom have supported and helped in his fire department career. Jim, I'd like to personally thank you, and also on behalf of the residents of Springfield Township, thank you for your 25 years of service to this community. And for that, I give you a round of applause.
All right. Now, with that tough act to follow,
Yes, it is,
We-
definitely.
we have a special presentation this evening from Terry Now. She is here regarding Issue 6, the Hamilton County Family Services and Treatment Levy.
You took the words out of my mouth. I thought that was a wonderful and an honor to follow. Again, I am Terry Now. My day job is the Community Relations Director at Talbot House, but tonight I have my hat on behalf of the voters in terms of the Family Services and Treatment Levy, which is Issue 6, which will be on the ballot in November. And what we're trying to do is just outreach to the community and educate them on this issue. Many in your community will probably definitely fondly remember this levy as the old Drake levy. And when Drake went out of this levy, it became renamed and branded 5 years ago as the Family Services and Treatment Levy, so it doesn't have the recognition as some of the others that may be on the ballot. So we're going out just to try to help people understand what it is. And this is a renewal, will not raise people's taxes, because it did pass 5 years ago as the Family Services and Treatment Levy. It raises about $6 million a year for 5 years for drug and alcohol treatment, reentry services, and some of the sheriff's services in the county that reduce the burden on the jail. It costs a homeowner of a $100,000 valuation home $10.20 a year. And we believe it's very important to our community to continue these services in the community. So we're just out talking to people and help educate them. We do have a website if people want to go there and get more information or call us, and that is familyservicesandtreatment.com. So we're happy to help anyone who has any questions about that before they vote.
All right. Are there any questions?
No, I think she was very informative. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you
Terry,
very
thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you
your
coming
time.
out.
Thank you.
Next, moving on with our agenda this evening, we have minutes for approval. Do we have those, the dates of those minutes, Mr. Gilbert?
It's on here.
It's on.
Is it, okay, it's not on my sheet.
Yeah, actually, it's May 13th, June 10th regular meeting, and May 28th and June 25th regular work session meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, Mr. Burning, our fiscal officer, do we have a financial report?
Yes, we do, as soon as I finish writing those notes. For the month ending August 31st, 2014, the township's expenditures were $1,054,771.20. The receipts were approximately $346,000. The ending cash balance was $14.2 million approximately, and that includes obligations for expenditures, payroll, regular operating costs, ongoing capital improvement projects, and investments. Right now, I request a motion to approve the receipts, warrants, payroll expenditures, updated current revenues and reports for the period ending at 8/31/2014.
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I just want everyone to know that reports are available for viewing at the administration offices weekdays during regular business hours. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Burning. Next, moving on to departmental action and discussion items. Mr. Hennenkamp, do you have a report for us?
I do, Mr. Honorlaw. I have two action items. The first involves adoption of a township Facebook policy. This is kind of due to the increased use of social media outlets and sources by the township, different ways in which we're now using these outlets to communicate information to our residents, to business owners, to visitors in the township. And given our increased use, I think it's prudent that we adopt a policy which kind of governs the utilization of these sites by the public. So as you look at the proposed policy, it sort of outlines, which is specifically for our Facebook page that the township uses. It sort of stipulates some of the reservations that the township has, the ability to remove certain posts that would include vulgar, language or inappropriate language, things where you're making a personal attack, a variety of different things. I won't have to read the whole policy. Pretty standard stuff. It also reserves the right to delete comments that are spam, include links to other sites, things of that nature, and also includes kind of your general disclaimer that the views represented on the Facebook page, other than the ones that are, the township comments, don't necessarily represent the views of the township, the trustees, or its staff. So pretty standard stuff. And as I said, just looking for a motion from the board to adopt the township Facebook policy.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's adopted.
Second action item I have is to request the board pass a motion to adopt proposed rental policy modifications for the Grove Banquet Hall and Senior Community Arts Center. These modifications have been recommended by Tom Schneider, who is our director for the two facilities. I know the board has a copy. There's sort of 5 areas that we're looking to make some modifications. The first has to do with pretty much, what the policy is and the procedures will be for rental contracts where we have a check that is returned or bounced, sort of stipulates what the procedures are for that case. The second item allows us to use the likeness of a renter unless they, in our marketing materials, things of that nature, unless they specifically ask that they not be included. So there'll be a opportunity for them to opt out of that provision if they desire, but if they don't choose to opt out, that we'd be able to use a name or likeness, photo, that type of thing in social media postings. The third is to make some modifications to some pricing. This has to do with alcoholic beverages, beer going from $3.50 to $4, mixed drinks, well-mixed drinks from $4 to $5, and premium from $5 to $6. And then the last 2 items involve the caterer. One would be to increase our approved caterer list from 20 to 25. And then the last one is to require a facility usage fee be paid by those caterers when they come into the facility, and then also include some language that if that would be waived if they have 5 or more referrals to the Grove. So not a lot of changes, but just some updating as we go through to remain competitive and look at what the competition is doing.
So this is, the increases are obviously what's going on in the marketplace.
Yes.
Do we have a policy that a renter has to pay so many days in advance of the event, or a lot of times are they giving us a check right at the event?
No, there's a lot of times they're paying in advance, but still that check sometimes will be, there'll be trouble with it, or they'll be making the final payment, something like that. I don't have the whole policy in front of me. I'm not exactly sure what the procedures are, but we've had some issues with some return checks.
Return checks.
And this will be something, as far as the return checks, this is going to be something that we're going to address in a finance policy, kind of an overall township finance policy that we hope to have presented later this year. But until that, and specifically for the Grove and for the senior center, we wanted to get this included in that policy document as well.
Is it more at the Grove or the senior center?
It could be either one. I think the Grove, we tend to have more, as far as the checks.
Right.
Yeah, I
Because the senior center,
honestly don't know.
those people are there a little more often, so they're less likely to give you a bad check.
Yeah, I think it probably is both, but it's not so much the frequency, it's just that we've had that and we don't really have a policy
Right, you have to
in
chase
place
it
for,
down.
chasing it down.
I think these are all great additions and changes. The one that I really like is that we're increasing the caterers from 20 to 25, because sometimes people have different choices. And when you look around at other systems similar to ours, they normally have about 25 to 30 at times. And that way, if an individual comes in maybe from a different, family background or ethnicity, then it's applicable. You can make something that's applicable to them, which opens up the doors for us to be able to bring in more clients to use the facility. So I think this is a very good one. I like all of them because it's much clearer as well what the expectations are.
Do we have a motion then to adopt the proposed rental modifications to the Grove and Senior rental policies?
So move.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item I have is something we discussed briefly at our August work session. I mentioned that Chief Heimpold and myself were in the process of reviewing the DART commander position, and that we would likely have some action for this meeting or some update, and we do. The review has really been sort of initiated due to the intention of the current DART commander to retire in November of this year. So we've kind of looked at how we would handle that possible replacement. Probably a little background on DART. I know the board's familiar with what DART is, but it's not common. DART stands for our Drug Abuse Resistance Team, which is a regional drug task force that includes 16 different police agencies that participate, including Springfield Township, obviously. From Hamilton County, DART is a covert task force, and it includes 3 employees that serve as township employees. That's the commander position, and then there's 2 part-time positions, one dealing sort of with administrative support, and the other one that sort of handles the forfeiture end of DART. And then of the 16 agencies, 4 of those agencies also put a police officer in there for a specified amount of time, which serves as a DART agent. As I mentioned, these are all undercover, covert-type positions dealing specifically with drug-related. DART is funded exclusively from a grant. There's a federal burn grant that is administered by the state of Ohio. It's the Ohio Department of Criminal Justice Services actually administers that grant, and that grant pays for all of DART's operations, with the exception of the cost that the individual participating communities that put an agent in there as one of the 4. Obviously, they're bearing that cost. But all the other expenses of DART are paid for. DART is comprised, DART actually has a board, which is comprised of the police chiefs of the 16 different agencies that sort of work in governing, but it's also sort of unique in the sense that because DART by itself is not a political entity or an entity really of any other kind, it requires that there be what's known as an administrative agency that serves as that entity, and that's the role that Springfield Township has taken. Blue Ash served for, I'm not trying to think when DART originally was formed, but I know Blue Ash had it for many, many years as the administrating agency. Back in, I think, about 2005, they notified the agencies they no longer wanted to be that administrative agency. They felt like they had sort of served their time. It was reviewed by all of the different agencies, and Springfield Township determined it was in our best interest to become that administrative agency, and we've sort of been serving in that capacity. So although DART's funded by grants, and it really doesn't cost Springfield Township taxpayers specifically any money, clearly there's some cost, some time involved by the township in administrating. It's not the most, it's kind of a difficult agency to administer at times because of how the grant works, but and those employees, those 3 employees actually serve as township employees. So that's sort of the unique one. The township, the commander of DART currently is Lieutenant Dave Schaefer, who's from our township police department, but the other 2 part-time individuals, employees, also are township employees officially, even though they're paid by the grant and those funds are coming in, and that's, so it's kind of a unique situation. I think over the years, as we've done the analysis of DART and some of the good work that it's done, we realize it probably saves the township anywhere from $400,000 to $500,000 a year. If DART didn't exist and we wanted that same type of task force and the same type of personnel and manpower doing the things that it's doing, and we had to do that on our own, you'd be looking at, that somewhere in that range of cost for us to do DART sort of as a vice unit. It would be that cost to us. As I mentioned, currently Dave Schaefer, Lieutenant Dave Schaefer is the commander, the DART commander. He's the 2nd Township Police Department employee in a command position to serve in this position as commander since a few years ago. The commander position was combined to where we took both the administrative part of the command and also the field command and moved that into one position. I think that was due to the grant shrinking a little bit and some of the changes that we were making. As I mentioned in the beginning, Lieutenant Schaefer intends to retire at the end of November. His retirement is somewhat due to the fact that OPERS is making some changes, and it's beneficial for him to make that decision before November. So In sort of reviewing that, this is a very complex position. It requires highly specialized training, knowledge, deals with all types of very sophisticated technical equipment involving surveillance and things of that nature. So it takes someone quite a bit of time to get the experience. And in order to retain this knowledge and not lose it, Chief and I have talked. We've had discussions with Lieutenant Schaefer, and Chief has come back, and we're sort of recommending that we rehire Mr. Schaefer in his capacity as a DART commander with some changes, obviously, and I'll kind of walk you through what those changes is to what we would recommend. The first, we would modify the position, which currently is a full-time position. We'd modify that position to a part-time position. It would entail 1,820 hours per year. The compensation would be reduced by about 16.5% based on what it is currently. So it would go to $75,000 per year, which, as I mentioned, is about a 16.5% reduction. Given that it would be part-time, the position would not include any type of benefits, so there would be no sick, there'd be no vacation, there'd be no holiday, no personal days. Obviously, because it's 1,820 hours, we would be required to offer health insurance in accordance with the ACA, and also there's a provision in the Ohio Revised Code that would require that. It would not require any type of rank, so Lieutenant Schaefer would be retiring as a lieutenant. He'd be coming back as the DART commander, but he would not have a rank position or any type of seniority or longevity in the police department. He, in fact, would be, serve as a part-time police officer and carry his commission. We would continue to carry the commission through the township. And also, unless otherwise determined sometime in the future by the board, the position would be wholly dependent on the grant. And so if grant funding were to stop for any number of reasons, if the state no longer provides that type of grant, or DART no longer was eligible for the grant, in all likelihood the position would be eliminated unless we were able to identify another funding source. So that's sort of what we're recommending. There is some requirements under the law. The ORC, it's actually ORC 145-381, requires that 60 days notice be provided prior to the board actually considering such an action. So we would be not looking for any action from the board tonight to actually create this job, but to provide the notice that this is being considered. November 12th would be the date of the next regular meeting after the 60 days that we would be looking for. ORC also requires that there be a public meeting, so we would do that during the board's regular meeting in November the 12th, and that public meeting take place 15 to 30 days before him actually starting. So kind of looking at the timing, you'd be given the 60-day notice of your intention to have the public meeting to consider this, and that meeting would take place at least 15 days prior to him actually starting, which we're figuring would probably be no sooner than December the 1st. Could be a little later. We're still going to double check on his retirement, but figuring it would probably be December 1st. So, I think the primary goal here in doing all of this, and what Chief recommended in our discussions with Assistant Chief Browder and also with Lieutenant Schaefer, our number one goal is to retain his skills and his training, which we paid for and put him into this position. This is, as I mentioned, a highly specialized position. The only alternative, really, if Lieutenant Schaefer did not want to return in this position, would be to take somebody from our former commander and return that individual back to DART. While he's completely competent and served in that capacity very, very well, it then removes him from our police department and creates another shortage there. So that would not be the most ideal situation, and then we'd have to replace his position in the police department. The other, looking at this position is, by the way we've restructured it, you're probably talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 of savings. And these savings are in reduced salary, the fact that there are no benefits, the pension, actually, and a lot of times this is criticized, there's a lot of information in the news when there's a rehire that the public is, somehow getting a raw deal, and there's probably some cases where that is the case, but in the situations where we've done it in the township, it's saved the taxpayers money, and this will certainly do that. The pension will be a savings alone of close to $6,000, because once you come back as a rehired employee, you go into a civilian pension, not a law enforcement pension, and of course, it'd be also at a lower salary. So there's about $6,000 worth of savings there. There's no longevity, as I mentioned, and of course, all the other benefits. So
My understanding is he can't go over 1,820 hours.
that's correct. That's how the position will be structured, and those will be the maximum hours by design in the position.
Well,
So,
Mike, I think it's kind of a win-win for the township. We get to retain the institutional knowledge of Dave Schaefer. He's got the skills and the leadership we need for this position, and at the same time, we're bringing him back at a reduced amount. Works for him, and it's going to work for the best interest. What I couldn't believe in everything you were saying is that we've been the servicing agency since 2005. That
I think
is,
it's actually six.
Six,
It was in
okay.
5 that Blue Ash said
They
were
said,
doing it. I think
okay.
we started in 6, wasn't it?
How the
Yeah,
year-
I think we were thinking, Dave was saying it was 3 or 4 years ago, and when we looked and said that's been.
I mean, I would have guessed that too. The years have just, time flies by, but it's been very valuable to Springfield Township. So many times drugs are, the root of all kinds of crime, the cause of it, and it has certainly served us well to have DART here in Springfield Township, so it's something we want to keep for the future.
From what I'm hearing is that we'd be saving about 20%, saving that money, it's a cost saver in essence.
There's no question. I mean,
So
16.5% just on the
important.
salary, but when you add up all of the other factors. And again, I think, we've talked and there's been a lot of discussion about rehires, and it has a very negative connotation, and I don't think it's something you take lightly, because I think there have been cases where it's been abused without question. Certainly not what we've done, but, it's something you look at on a case-by-case basis and see if it makes sense for the community. And I think, there's been other instances where it simply doesn't, and we've had employees, ask, and we've not pursued it because it wasn't a savings. It was not beneficial to the taxpayers. This case, I think it is a win-win. Like I said, the total savings is somewhere probably right around $40,000. And, you get to retain someone of 27 years' experience, and probably the last, I think, 3 or 4 in DART. It's kind of win-win, so.
When I look at, when you said 2006 was when we really got involved, and then when you look at 2014, and you do a comparing and contrasting, it appears to me that we are seeing an increase in drug-related incidents, period, and throughout our county and also the state as a whole. So I think that this is, DART is a necessary agency, and hopefully, it can continue to do the great job that it does, and we can continue to deal with these challenges in our community and other communities. It's not just Springfield Township. I don't want anybody looking at this program tonight and think it's isolated. It's just in Springfield Township. It's throughout the county and throughout the state.
Well, no question, that's why this is 16 police agencies that come together, so, DART is the epitome of collaboration, right? It's what, this is one of the really successful ways that we can all come together, and with our discussion a month or so ago about Coleraine
Yes.
now joining, I think there's a good possibility that the grant will be maybe even increased, because now we're covering a larger population. So we're hopeful that we continue to bring other entities into the fold, but it's, you can certainly speak to the value of what it's been.
And I don't think it can be overstated either that this is paid 100% by the grant. That while there's a savings that we realized, Lieutenant Schaefer's salary as he comes back will be funded 100% by this grant and not from local Springfield Township taxpayer dollars out of the police district fund.
Taxpayers, state taxpayers save on the grant.
Yeah.
And, DART not only works throughout Hamilton County, but we also partner with state and federal. And, a lot of what the DART team does and the DART commander position requires is, the relationships with DEA, FBI, that we work, nationally on stopping drugs that are being shipped into the township or in the surrounding community. The drug dealers really don't care about whether they're in Springfield Township, Forest Park, Green Hill. I mean, they're in business to do business. And, so it takes a long time to build those relationships and to build the technical skills for surveillance, cell phones, and wiretaps, and all the things that go on. So, at one point, before we were the administrative agency, DART, we ran a drug unit. And it was 4 officers that we were paying for. So, there's, $400,000, $500,000 that right there. And, we have the benefit of being an administrative agency for DART. So, we're able to concentrate, on township issues as well as issues that are occurring all over the county that affect, their community and our communities.
Exactly. Thank you, Chief.
So, Joe, I guess the official action I'm looking for is to request a motion from the board to give 60 days notice that a person is or will be retiring and is seeking employment with the public employer. And then also in that motion, set November 12th is the date for the public meeting for the board to consider the issue of the person being employed by the public employer.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Laura's just nudging me, telling me we got, obviously, the time and location will be, is part of our November 12th regular meeting here in the Allen Paul meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Start over. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
okay, next item I have is just an update. I think we touched on this briefly also at our work session back in August, but we had a request for some no parking to be posted on Long Lane, and what is typically our policy is I'll generally have that request reviewed by our service director first to see if, according to the traffic manual, it should be posted, or, in some cases, it's something that was overlooked. And then we have our police and oftentimes fire department review it as well. So that's what we did on this particular request. There was no indication, I think, from our service director that, it basically complied. There wasn't any requirement or need for no parking to make it compliant with the traffic. And our traffic safety officer reviewed it as well and saw no real situation of safety that would be an enhanced. So at that case, and under those circumstances, we didn't pursue it any further. Typically, if we would have, gotten an indication back from either one of those things or the fire department, if it's a case where there isn't a fire lane, we would then notify all of the affected property owners and then bring it to the board so that the board could consider it and hear from any property owners who wanted to state their opinions. But at this case, it doesn't appear that there is any justification for the no parking. So don't know if the board wants us to go in a different direction, but that's kind of where we stand with it at this point.
Well, I think it's been the policy of the board that we do get these occasionally from time to time where a citizen will say, I want to post it, no parking in front of my home. And our policy has been to do just what Mr. Hennekamp, you said, is have our service department, the road department, and the police department, and sometimes fire, look at it to see if there are any specific state regulations that would justify a no parking zone, or if there's some special safety reason that would justify it. And if there is, we've kind of learned from experience, the best thing is to notify all the parties and tell them there's going to be a meeting, and then let people come in, because we've had some of these have been fairly contentious, where, there might be somebody asking for it, and then a whole bunch of people are like, no, we want to keep it. But our policy has been, if there's nothing that justifies it from a safety or a policy perspective, we generally don't go to the next step, because we're just not in the business of making no parking just because one person asked for it. I guess if, in this case, we'll notify, I did speak to the homeowner about it, and we'll notify them that we're not going to pursue it further, and if it turns out there's something else they want to call to our attention, they can.
Sure.
But that would be, I think, the way we'd proceed.
Okay?
I agree.
I got a little bit of good news for a change on Winton Road. We did receive notification from the Hamilton County Engineers Office that there's a pre-construction meeting scheduled for the repaving of Winton Road, and this is the southern portion of Winton Road from North Hill Lane to Harbury. And something that I receive almost weekly calls about, even though it's not a township road. Residents or visitors to the township that drive that road it'll knock the fillings out of your teeth. So, good news on the south part. The north section, as we heard from the engineer a few months back, is something that's probably going to be a little longer. There's some widening that they're going to do in the northern section, and they're going to be applying for a grant from OKI, but probably going to be a few years before we see major rehabilitation. But good news on the south, that project should be done before the end of the year.
That'll help.
Yes, it will. We did discuss this also briefly at our August work session, but just wanted to remind the board that our meeting, November regular meeting, was scheduled for November 11th, and that is Veterans Day. And I think the board had decided that we would move that one day to the Wednesday, November the 12th, to avoid the holiday. I don't maybe want to take a, I don't know, I can't remember if we passed a motion to do that, but we may want to do that. And then also, in looking at the October schedule, we noticed that there's sort of kind of it's the weird glitch in the calendar where our regular meeting in October falls on the second Tuesday, is sort of as late as it can fall, which means the fourth Wednesday is only the next week. So thought it might be a good idea to consider moving the October 22nd work session back to October the 29th due to the closeness to the regular meeting. And then there are also, in conjunction with that, this is the year for the next round of the Community Development Block Grant funding. And as a part of that, we have to do 2 public hearings to consider what our application is going to look like and to allow for feedback from the public, and maybe make those 2 October dates be the dates for those public hearings. So really looking for 2 motions. One would be to move the November 11th meeting to the 12th and the October 22nd work session meeting to October 29th. And then the second motion would be to set the public hearing dates for community development block grant purposes as October 14th and October 29th.
Okay. Do we have a motion to move the 2 meeting dates as
So
stated?
So we want 2 motions, separate motions, or can we?
The first one's going to move both meeting dates.
Okay.
As stated.
Okay.
So moved.
Second it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The second motion will be to designate the 2 meeting dates in October for community development block grant hearings,
And that's the 14th and 29th.
the 14th and the 29th of October. And those meetings will be here, of course, in the Allen Paul Room in Springfield Township at
5:30 on
5:30.
the 14th, and whatever your pleasure is on the 29th. You
Go
can
with
make it
29th.
5:30 as well if you want.
5:30. Let's keep it
do them both at
consistent.
5:30.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The only other item that I have, other than the personnel update, is just to remind the board that we will have there is a resolution, it's actually Resolution 76, 2014, later in the meeting. This resolution is due to some of the increased occurrences we're seeing with the private sponsorship of teen events, which have resulted in the need for police intervention. There's been arrests and a variety of impacts to kind of the public safety. And so 76-214, which we'll be talking about later, does create a teen club and teen event permitting process and licensing requirements, including the establishment of fees. So that'll be later, and we can have discussion under the resolution part of the meeting. The final thing I have is the personnel update. And in the fire department, I did accept the resignations is Kendall Rouse, is part-time firefighter, or part-time paramedic firefighter, and his resignation was effective July 29th. Jeff Benzing is a part-time paramedic firefighter, his resignation effective August the 27th. Also, we talked about the retirement of Jim Elliott tonight as part-time paramedic firefighter, effective August 25th, 2014. And we did have one new hire, and that's Cody Hogg as a part-time EMT firefighter, effective date September the 4th. In the police department, we did have the medical separation of employment from Jim Ohl as police officer, effective August 23rd, 2014. In the senior community center, we did hire a new part-time building monitor, that's Brian Hall. His effective date of hire was August the 20th. And our seasonal employment ended in our service department for Jake Ungemuller, effective August 15th. Taylor Bovey, also August 15th. Joe Durr, August the 19th. Ricky Bro, August the 20th. Trevin Wilson, August the 22nd. And Luke Richards on August the 29th. And I asked Kim to bring the board up to date on what's happening with community events and programs.
Thank you. Just wanted to make a formal announcement that over the weekend, the Springfield Township Arts and Enrichment Council launched its new brand. It is now called Arts Connect, and the new website just started. It is live. It's on theartsconnect.us. As far as upcoming events, we have our senior picnic that is in collaboration with the City of Wyoming this week on Friday, September the 12th, from 11 to 3 p.m. Our next dinner theater event is a swing dance event, and that's going to be on October the 17th. And then Playhouse in the Park is going to continue with their series starting on October the 30th. They're going to be doing Roses and Thorns. We're also inviting children to wear their Halloween costumes. They're going to trick-or-treat with the cast and crew, and we are also inviting for a pre-show. Princeton High School and St. X is going to be doing a pre-show of their high school show, their high school plays.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Kim.
I would just like to make a comment. The Arts Council and the open house that we had on Friday evening was very well received, and I am just so amazed at the talent that we have in Springfield Township, the artists and those individuals who do a lot of great things as far as artwork is concerned. And I was also amazed at the number and the collaboration with Wyoming community as well. So just a great job, well done, everyone. I mean, I had a fabulous time, and everybody else seemed to, but it was really a wonderful event.
All right, very good. All right. Next, moving on to board resolutions this evening. The first resolution that we have is resolution number 73, 2014, declaring nuisances pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.87 at various listed properties within Springfield Township, and authorizing statutory actions necessary to abate the nuisances. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have Resolution 74, 2014, establishing assessment for abatement of nuisance and certifying same to the Hamilton County Auditor.
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have Resolution number 75, 2014, authorizing the private sale of motor vehicles which were titled to the township pursuant to Revised Code Section 4513.61 and Revised Code Section 4513.62, and which are not needed or unfit for use in the police department.
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Finally, we have Resolution 76, 2014, and this is creating a teen club and teen event permitting process and licensing requirements, establishing fees, dispensing with the second reading, and declaring an emergency. And I think the first thing I would like to do is to have a motion to dispense with the requirement for 2 readings on 2 separate days. And we'll want a roll call. We'll want first a motion,
So moved.
Second it.
and we'll need a roll call on this
Mr.
one.
Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
And for this particular resolution, I know Laura Abrams, our township attorney, has worked hard on this. Laura, can you kind of run us through what this resolution, what it's set to accomplish, what it does, that kind of thing?
Okay. It's, we killed a lot of trees with this one. It's a 20-page resolution. It's modeled off after sort of what Coleraine did as well. The point of these resolutions is there's a increase in the number of teen clubs that are being operated. Part of the problem is with social media, you'll get someone who goes to the teen club and then suddenly there's thousands of kids who are all have tweeted one another, come to this club, and then sometimes it ends up with significant problems, violence. There's been a lot of firearms in these types of gatherings, alcohol-related offenses. A lot of adverse secondary effects is what we would call it in the law from these teen clubs. Certainly what we're trying to do here and what Colerane's trying to do in other communities is not to prevent teen clubs, not to prevent teens to gather, not to prevent teens to have an outlet to go and enjoy themselves. That's not the point. The point is to make sure that those establishments are legitimate, that they're safe. I mean, some of these spring up in facilities that aren't even remotely large enough to handle the number of teens who attend. So it has a dual purpose, just the resolution generally. The first is to protect the teens who come. I mean, some of these establishments allow what I would consider children as young as 14, all the way up to 21. So that's a very large range of age. And they're mingling together, the 14-year-olds and the 20-year-olds, which is problematic to some parents anyway. But it's a large age range. Obviously, younger children are permitted to come. So the point is to make sure that they get to go to an establishment that is the type of establishment where they're safe, that they're able to enjoy themselves, and also that the surrounding businesses and residences are also protected from what are the secondary effects of such a organization if there's establishment, if there's a problem. So it is designed to increase safety. It's designed to ensure that the building and facilities are reasonable. So what we've done is created a permitting and licensing scheme. We've broken it into 2 types of categories. The first is a teen club, which is sort of a year-round business, actual facility that stays in one place. Those will be required to get a permit. There's an application process set out in there, and they have to provide information as to who owns it, a layout of what's there, emergency exits, the things you would need for any sort of, convention center type area where people are going to gather. So safety requirements, we're also requiring that there be security, on-duty police, off-duty police officers, based on the number of occupants that they anticipate in the club. So it's a teen club permit for the established businesses. There's also a teen event permit for certain teen events that are one-time events. There's a specific section, lest people worry, that we exempt birthday parties and school events and things like that. So those would not be required to be permitted. But we're talking about the sort of events in a business where they are charging and they're having people come for a dance party or something, where it really is more business oriented. So there's a teen event permit process as well. And then we require licensing of the employees at these establishments. The main point for that is to make sure, again, that the people who are running these establishments are the types of people you want to be handling the safety and welfare of teens as young as 14. So we do have a prohibition if anyone has sexual offenses related to delinquency of minors. Those people wouldn't be able to receive those licenses. So it's a rather lengthy resolution for those purposes, but we have attempted to spell out exactly what the permit process is going to be, how much it costs, what they need to do to get the permit, so that anyone who wants to have this type of establishment can pick up this tome and know exactly what they need to do. So I think it's an important thing for the township to do at this point. And I think we have tried, Chief Heinpohl and Mike Camp and staff, we've tried to think of all the ways to make it fair to the businesses, but also to make sure that it's safe for the teens in the surrounding community.
Well, I think it's really important that you make sure that it's not some fly-by-night type person coming in, running it here one week, over here the next, I mean, I think as long as it is, you're trying to cover all the bases. I'm sure we'll learn a couple things in the next year and modify it, but the most scariest thing to me is you have a bunch of kids in a place, and you might have a bunch of kids, 22 years old, that have no idea how to control them, kind of just trying to make money on a weekend or something, and there you go. All of a sudden, you have all kinds of problems. So I think it's important that it kind of cover everything.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a wise thing. Particularly, we've seen how if neighboring jurisdictions adopt regulations, you probably want to also, so that you don't kind of by default become the area where these things, want to locate. So I think it makes sense that we do that, and we try and present the kind of safety environment that we would want to have for our children.
Exactly, and I think the one part in the resolution where it discusses the purpose, and again, it focuses on safety of the kids that are coming, safety of the community, and also to look out for the general welfare of anyone else in that surrounding area, and that's very, very critical. And I'm glad we're doing this before things get out of control or out of hand. I guess I was concerned when the summer arrived, we began to see some things, just sprouting up. But now we've addressed it in a proactive manner. And I think this is a good thing for us to have in the township. And also collaborating with other townships as well.
Well, and as Mr. Burns said, this is really a new type of legislation throughout the country anyway. So there's going to be some changes to this. So we have really worked to think our way around every possibility here. But anybody who drafts legislation knows you can't think of every possible circumstance.
Exactly.
I mean, there may be elements in here that we find out are too restrictive. That's not, it's achieving something we don't want to achieve. There may be things that are not restrictive enough. And I see this as, it's going to be a document that changes and gets modified. We'll be amending this thing. Unfortunately, we have to put the full text of it in every amendment. So every time we amend it, it will get longer. But I think it will be something that has to change. It has to change with the times and what we see happening. So, and we may find something that we need to make the kids safe that we didn't think about. So we have tried. I mean, I think Cole Rain did a good job with their resolution think we tried to add to that. I think that's what everybody tries to do. I think we came out with a good result. It is, I didn't mention it specifically, but it is a home rule resolution, so it does have a civil citation section to it for violations. So, and those are in there as well.
All right, Laura. Laura, thank you very much for all the hard work.
No problem.
Therefore, do we have a motion to adopt resolution number 76, 2014 as an emergency resolution?
So moved.
Seconded?
We need a
Mr.
roll
Carney?
call. Yeah.
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Finally, do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Motion passes. Okay, next on to old business. Do we have any old business before the board this evening?
I have none.
Any new business?
I have, I just want to recognize a letter that we received from one of our surrounding communities where our police, our paramedics went in to support and help them with a fire and an explosion. And our fire department responded, and the letter indicates how valuable and well appreciated they were because our Springfield Township paramedics provided services to not only individuals that may have been in there, but also to the firefighters who were overcome with some of the heat and exhaustion. So I just want to make sure that, again, we continue to look at the great work that our fire department and our police department provide, because I know that we don't work in isolation. We work as a pair and as a team. So again, it's another example of working collaboratively together as a team. And it kind of ties in with this coming Thursday is Patriot Day. And Patriot Day is a day that's recognized, where they're recognizing first responders, and those include police and the fire department. And again, just remembering we have so many unsung sheroes and heroes. And it just proves and continue to remind us of the work that our first responders do and provide, and some of the challenges that they're facing as they're doing it, and they never complain. I mean, when you look at the two individuals who retired, tonight, I mean, dedication, commitment, never blinked an eye, and never missed any of their assigned scheduled times. So again, I think it's important that we remember our firefighters, not just on 9/11, because the Patriot Day also is reflective of what happened on 9/11. And, when you're looking at some of the challenges that we're facing in the world, 9/11 can be any time. And so we're always there, ready to go. And again, just remember our police and fire services and our first responders on September the 11th.
Thank you, Gwen. Next, is there anyone, we're to the citizens' participation part of our meeting. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board? If you would, I would ask that you step up to the podium, state your name and address, so that we can hear what you have to say.
Robin Hendley, 6341 Ridgefield Drive. Just a couple of things. It's that time of year to announce the Finneytown Civic Association's fall general meeting. That'll be on Monday evening at 7 o'clock. I believe we have room A. I'm not certain on that, but it is back at the Senior Community Center. Public is welcome to attend. You don't need to be a member of the organization to be there. We're trying to confirm a speaker, if possible, at the state level that could come in and possibly address the article that appeared in the Cincinnati Enquirer on the 8th. You're probably familiar with it. There was a review by several reporters. They did a dissection of, in my opinion, justifying the governor's budget cuts to the local communities. And it goes and it has a lot of threads about that. I was interested in that, and that got a lot of discussion among the FCA board. If we can confirm someone to come in from the state to discuss those and either defend or not defend what's been doing, the township would be certainly welcome to send a representative to present counterpoint. So it's kind of iffy. At this point, there will be the meeting. If we're not able to confirm a speaker, then we may have someone come in from the local community as a backup. Also on,
What was the date on that, Robin? I'm sorry to interrupt.
that's okay, it'll be Monday evening at 7 p.m., September 22nd. We've gone down to only 2 meetings a year rather than our customary 4. Also on October 19th, that's a Sunday evening, 7 p.m., that will be our annual Meet the Candidates night. We do have the room booked. We haven't sent the invitations out yet. I believe Dick Meyer's working on that and Chris Offrey. We know for certain we have U.S. House race, State Senate race, County Commissioner, County Auditor. Also, there is a renewal and tax issue levies for family services, indigent hospital care, and also the Union Terminal vote that will be on the ballot. So we'll get those firmed up. We'd like to have good attendance to that, and it'll be the typical format, a little less loose and controlled, but we'll have them in order of the importance of the office, divide the time that they're each allowed to speak proportionately, because at 9 o'clock we're through. And we'll also ask that a representative come to discuss the various levies on the ballot. Generally, that's someone from the League of Women Voters. So it would be that or other individuals. Certainly, we'd like to get a good attendance. And again, you do not need to be a member of the organization to come to any of our meetings. The last thing I've got, this came up quite recently. A couple of months ago, I talked to Chris. I had a rabbit that was eating my tomatoes. And I said, if I go out and shoot him and put him in a skillet, am I breaking any laws? And he said, no. He said, but you might get cited for shooting rabbits out of season. And it was kind of funny at the time, but it's true. I can go out in my backyard and take one of my mini guns and fire it off, as long as I don't shoot at a person on somebody's property. I'm not drunk, not otherwise under the influence of drugs or incapacitated. There's really nothing the police department can do unless I'm disturbing someone's peace. That spurred a lot of conversation, given that there's been some recent repetitive gunshots somewhere along the Galbraith Road area. So Joe sent an email to Representative Denise Dryhouse's office asking if she could address that, and it was confirmed by her legislative aide, Kelsey Woolward. A lot of people in the community have looked at this and don't like the idea that anybody can walk around packing a gun and shooting it off anytime they want to. So there was some discussion whether or not there needs to be legislation put in place so that in townships that you can't necessarily do that. So we'd like the township trustees and certainly the police department to give it some thought. If that's something that merits proceeding with, we'd certainly like to help you with that and take the lead on that with the community. I see the chief over there kind of squinting. Is everything I've said right? I mean, I'm not going to go out and wave my guns around in my yard and shoot anything. Although if that rabbit shows up back, he is going to wind up in a skillet or a roasting pan.
In season, has to be in season.
Well, it's getting close. Do you see that as being something that maybe needs to be addressed and some kind of constraints put into place? If the township would like to pursue that, I can almost guarantee you that at least the entire FCA board will support that, including me, and I'm concealed carry. I don't need to be carrying that thing into a store, and I certainly won't carry it into a bar, and I won't go into one where you can bring them in. I don't need to go to Kroger's with it, and it doesn't need to be seen. And the only time anybody's ever going to see it is if I feel my life's in danger. And I don't think that's an unreasonable way to approach it.
All right. Robin, thank you very much. Appreciate the comments and the updates and those announcements of the two meetings coming up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board this evening? Yes.
Kyle Hufford, I live on Pringle Drive. Just wanted to let you guys know real quick. I think I talked to Dan Burning the last work session meeting, and I'm one of the ward chairs for Springfield Township for the Republican Party, and I think you mentioned I could bring some signs in, so I just want to let you guys know that I brought some signs if anybody wants to grab them for the various Republican candidates that are on the ballot in November. And for anybody watching from home, I have those available at Kyle's Gun Shop 10 to 6 Monday through Saturday. That's all I have.
Okay, but Kyle, we don't bring political signs into township meetings. This is, we don't use these as campaign meetings.
I'm just saying, if anybody wants signs, I've got them.
Okay, from now on, we'll keep them outside in your truck. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? It appears that there's not. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting
The
adjourned.
meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.